What's up, guys? I want to do a GOAT deck profile that I was pretty interested in making. So I decided to take a deck that was basically not of the current meta because I really like some of the cards in the GOAT format and how it ties into the format, basically. Before I get into the deck profile, I just want to give a shout out to Goatsart. Goatsart gave me this free playmat of his. Really nice playmat. If you guys can see, it's BLS, DD Warrior Lady, Breaker, Blade Knight, and Donzolu. And on the backside here, we have Thousand Eyes Restrict. So depending on what format or what deck you're playing in the format, that involves either the Thousand Eyes Restrict, or if you have the team here, the Warrior team, then you can play Warriors with this as well. So really sick playmat. I really liked it, and I really want to give a shout out to Goatsart. His name is Danny in real life. So he's a big Edison, also Goat and Tengu plant guy. I also have a deck profile with him as well. So if you guys are interested in watching his deck profile, it'll be on my channel for that as well. So yeah, we're gonna get to the deck profile real quick. So I decided to play a deck called Bounce Control. I don't know if that's a deck in Goat format, but it basically plays the Golem Sentry to be able to control the board really well. I only played 2 copies of it. The idea behind this is that it is a big giant wall. Basically, having the 1800 defense is really nice. But being able to bring this out from your deck via the giant rat is kind of the idea of this deck. Um, So everything in Goat format, the best cards are the ones that can replace themselves if they are on the field. So in Goat control matchups where you have Golem Sentry, you can wall up with these monsters, and then eventually you're gonna be able to draw an out to a Thousand Eyes Restrict. Outs in this deck are going to be your traps, usually to a Thousand Eyes Restrict. And so the reason why this deck is called Bounce Control is because it plays even the Abyss Soldier as well to be able to bounce monsters. And a card that nobody ever uses in this format is Cryos Sphinx. So Cryos Sphinx is one of those cards where it's a continuous effect, and anytime a monster, it gets to return back to the owner's hand. Let me read this card here. Yeah, anytime a monster is returned back to the owner's hand, the owner of that card has to discard a card from their hand. So you're playing kind of like a hand control strategy where if you can stick this on the board via Giant Rat, when it's on their turn and they attack over it, you place this in attack position, and on your following turn, you put in defense position. With 2400 defense, it's really tough to get rid of him. And then the reason why bounce is really good in this particular format is that chaos monsters can't fuel up their graveyard to make dark and light. So they're gonna have to rely on cards like Thunder Dragon, Graceful Charity, and a number of other cards that allow you to draw and discard to be able to get their Chaos Sorcerer online. And by then, you're already at advantage because you want to be able to gain advantage using the Golem Sentry paired off with this to be able to keep bouncing back monsters on your opponent's side, and then being able to do damage on your opponent's life points. That's kind of the idea. And if you can stick an Abyss Soldier on there with Sinister Serpent, which I do play, you're basically able to generate a +1 every turn. Assuming they don't have Sinister Serpent in their hand, you can keep using the Cryos Sphinx on the board with Abyss Soldier to bounce something back to their hand, even a set monster or set card, to be able to control the board really well. So it's a really nice little bounce control deck. Other cards I play are Tribe Infecting Virus. In the event that my opponent already has like an established board, this is a really good card, and it's also a good recovery card too. So being able to recover is really nice with Tribe Infecting Virus. And of course, since I play the Sinister Serpent, you can discard the Sinister Serpent to destroy a lot of different cards. Then we have the Sangan here. Sangan is a must in Goat. I think most decks have to play this card because you can search almost everything. It's also really pesky because there's no way to get rid of it without trading cards out of it. The best way to get rid of it is to summon a monster and attack over it. In which case, yeah, you're in a good position. But Sangan can search for the Sinister Serpent, which is the key component of this deck, and then being able to use Sangan to search for the Giant Rat or the Golem Sentry is the idea as well. I also play the Magician of Faith. I like Magician of Faith in Goat format because you can recur your spell cards that are powerful, such as Pot of Greed and Nomen to Crossout, Heavy Storm, Graceful Charity, you name it. So I opted to play 2 copies of this. A card I really like in Go formats are cards that can recur other cards to thin out your deck. So I think of Nimble Mongraal as sort of like an upstart goblin if it does get destroyed by battle. you are able to gain life points, but also able to take out 2 cards out of your deck, and then that means you can deck in a lot better, so you can see your cards a lot smoother. The gaining life points is also important too because you are playing cards like Solemn Judgment in this deck, which pays a hefty amount of life points. And so being above in life points, especially in a time rule where Konami likes to say, "Oh, in a phase, whoever has the highest life point wins the game." So this actually makes it so that this strategy is really good because you are playing a control deck, so you are going to go into time sometimes depending on who you're playing against. That's it for my monsters. Sorry, and then the Breaker of the Magical Word. Yeah, that's it for my monsters. It's a very low monster count, I would say. But the idea is to be able to use a very small amount of monsters to control the board so you don't have to reoccur it. The spell cards, I play the Trinity. You have to play the Trinity if you want to play competitive goats. Otherwise, you're not really getting advantage over your opponent. These cards allow you to have an unfair advantage over your opponent, or if it's not the case, then it's also a recovery card. So these cards are recovery cards, and I don't really need to explain most of that. You need the Upstart Goblins because you are playing a low monster count, so you want to be able to see either a monster if you don't open up many monsters, or you want to be able to see your spell trap if you already see too many monsters. Then we have Swords of Revealing Light, a card that you can pair off with Abyss Soldier. So if you're able to discard a water monster or Sinister Serpent, you can bounce back to Swords of Revealing Light, and then you can control your opponent that way so that your Golem Sentry keeps getting to resolve its effect. This basically, Golem Sentry just makes it so that Magician of Faith never resolves on your opponent's side. So ideally, if they set a monster, you can just flip the Sentry and then bounce back to Faith, and then the Faith will never get the +1 that it wants. MST, Book, and Heavy. The Book of Moon is good because even though I only play one of it, if your giant rat gets attacked and you bring out the Cryos Sphinx, the Book of Moon allows you to Book of Moon the Cryos Sphinx on attack declaration so that he goes to defense position face up. So that's kind of the idea of Book. Book of Moon has a lot of application as well, being able to flip down your flip effect monsters such as Faith, and doing a lot of different shenanigans with Book as a primary way of disrupting. You can also Book of Moon a Thousand Edge Restrict as well. A lot of people were citing Royal Decree against me, so Book of Moon actually came up a lot of times where I was able to book their Thousand Edge Restrict. So it doesn't resolve without basically resolves without effect, and then Decree essentially makes it so this card can be played under it. That's what I really like about it. And I play the Premature Burial because you can actually Premature Burial a Golem Sentry out of your graveyard, and then you can use the effect to set it, and then it gets sent to the graveyard as a result. So this way you're able to revive your Golem Sentry, and also being able to put another monster on board in addition to that. Another thing I want to add is if people snatch steal this card, which people typically do, even though they control this card, it says the owner of the card that gets bounced has to discard a card. So this card actually ends up working against them if I'm able to resolve a Sentry, and a Sentry bouncing back another monster means that they had to discard a card out of their hand, even though they control this card. So just a little FYI for that particular strategy. I play the 2 Nullman across out because you have to play this because in the event that you don't open up another water monster or a Golem Sentry, you need to be able to control your opponent's Magician of Faith to be able to destroy it. It also pairs well with the 1 Book of Moon as well. But for the most part, I'm using Noct just for tempo plays. The trap lineup is pretty hefty. I play the 3 Compulsory because you're playing the bound control. So if you have this card paired off with this card, it makes Compulsory a 1-for-1 as opposed to a free. Yeah. So if you bounce back a fusion monster, it doesn't do anything. So it doesn't trigger this ability, but what it does do is 1-for-1s all the time, depending on the situation. So really good card in general, especially since people like to use Nullman across out on my Golem Sentry. I can use the Compulsory to bounce it back, and so there's a lot of applications for Compulsory in this particular build. I play the 2 Solemn Judgment. I don't want to play 3 because it gets a little bit too cloggy, so I only play 2 copies of this. If you're paying a lot of your life points can be recurred using Nimble Mongraal. So if 2 Nimble Mongraal gets destroyed after you resolve this at 8,000, you're back up to 6,000 life points, which is kind of nice. One Call the Haunted because I can end phase bring out any monster, including one of these Golem Sentry, but even Cryos Sphinx sometimes. And then you get to shift the defense mode so that you can have your bounce control mechanic again. You can get also your Abyss Soldier and your Sangan on the chain if they destroy it with MST or Heavy Storm. Then we have the Mirror Force, Ring, staple stuff. I opted to play the 2 dust shoots in the main deck because it's better against Chaos Turbo, but the way this deck loses is if they're able to stick a Sorcerer on the board or a BLS on the board. So the idea is that Dust Shoot was able to get rid of the Chaos monsters, whereas this card could be a Sakuretsu armor. If it's a Sakuretsu armor, then this is better against Go Control. So Sakuretsu armor is better against Go Control and Chaos, not Chaos Turbo, but Warriors as well. But Dust Shoot is better against decks that are better against this deck. So I only main deck this for the good matchups. But also, if you go first with this deck and you draw this card, you're able to look at their hand and then Dust Shoot away something. So all in all, I prefer to main deck Dust Shoot over any other card that are drops. Card people don't play is the Spell Shield Type 8, sorry. It's a really good card because you could negate a No Mana Crossout, but you could also negate a Snatch Steal for free, so it's a 1-for-1. And a lot of times Snatch Steal and No Mana Crossout ends up changing the flow of the game a lot, so you want to be able to make sure that your monster sticks. So I never have any fear of setting Giant Rat, so that it doesn't get No Mana Crossout with this card, so I can just negate the Crossout, and then now they have to deal with the Recruiter that can get out my monsters, main monsters. That's it for the main deck. There's no extra deck in this deck because GOAT format, so that's really what I really like about GOAT, is that you don't have to come up with all these crazy extra deck monsters to play the game. Side deck is really variable. The only thing that's important out of this side deck is the 3 Sakuretsu armor. Good against Warrior, good against Go Control. So if they're attacking with 1000 Edge Restrict, you can just Sakuretsu armor and get rid of it. But it's just a good 1-for-1 trade. I don't main deck the Torrential. I side deck the Torrential against matchups where they're committing too many monsters to win the game. And then I play the Nightmare Penguin. I never sided this once, but the idea is if this gets bounced, if this gets flipped, it gets all my water monsters 200 attack, including himself. So Abyss Soldier becomes a 2000 attack monster. And it also allows you to bounce a monster so that you can pair off with the Cryos Sphinx. Never sided it, never needed it to. 2 creature swap, never sided this as well. But the idea between creature swap is that you could use this for your Nimble Mongraal and your Giant Rat so that you can get a +1 off the summons. And then the last card that I decide is the Golem Sentry. Only, about 9 cards in my side deck. I wasn't really needed to side deck anymore. For all you guys who are GOAT enthusiasts, you guys can probably come up with a better side deck than I can. But I'll have some gameplay videos of this particular deck in action so you guys can watch it. And I'll also do commentary as well so you guys can see it. So click out of this video and then find it in the deck where the gameplay video where I'm playing GOAT. But yeah, that's the deck profile for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I like to innovate, so that's kind of the name of my channel, Playtest IRL, to be able to come up with different decks, even though, and it breaks the mold of traditional deck list building. So anyways, signing off. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.